Top 10 Great Depression Research Topics. Causes and consequences of the Great Depression. The Great Depression is known as the most devastating economic crisis in U.S. history. But what made it so brutal? What population groups and economic sectors suffered the most? How did the government cope with this crisis? Examine the causes and effects of the Great Depression in your paper. The Great Depression and its effects on minorities. In this essay, you can explore the unique challenges American minorities experienced during the Great Depression. How did racial discrimination worsen the conditions of minorities in tough economic times? Did Roosevelt's New Deal address the problems of various ethnic groups? You can also explore whether and how the lives of American minorities have improved since the Great Depression. The Great Depression and military spending. Different factors contributed to the United States recovery from the Great Depression. This topic suggests you focus on one of them, military spending. Consider that the U.S. waged wars on other territories and supplied the UK, the USSR, and other states with armaments. How did these measures help the country overcome the consequences of the economic crisis? Great Depression and World War II, impact on the U.S. economy. The first half of the 20th century was marked by several major events, including the Great Depression and World War II. In your paper, you can focus on how these two crises affected the U.S. economy. What sectors suffered the most? Did the U.S. receive any gains from these events? Answer these questions in your paper. The impact of the Great Depression on education. Economy and education are closely intertwined. The state of the economy affects education funding, while the condition of the education system impacts the country's potential for economic growth. In your paper, you can examine how the economic decline during the Great Depression influenced American education. Consider the effects on funding, budgetary allocations, affordability of education, and racial disparities. Roosevelt's New Deal in Great Depression. The New Deal is considered the reform that ended the Great Depression. In your essay, you can explore this policy in detail. What was the rationale behind it? Did it have any opponents? What were the immediate and long-term consequences of its implementation? Make sure to support your answer with statistics and research findings. Great Depression and Art in America. In this paper, your task is to explore how the Great Depression was reflected in artworks, including literature, music, and visual art. Explore the most prominent pieces of art and analyze their purpose and message. You can also focus on social realism, which was the most significant art movement of that period. Historical events which prolonged the Great Depression. The stock market crash of 1929 started the Great Depression, but it was neither its leading cause nor its perpetuating factor. So, the question remains, why was this economic crisis so devastating and lasted as long as 10 years? Consider such events as the enactment of the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act and the adoption of the gold standard. The Great Depression versus the Civil Rights Movement. This topic encourages you to reflect on the positive effects of the Great Depression and the Civil Rights Movement on American society. Compare the scope, areas of change, and cultural transformations resulting from these phenomena. Which of them led to more profound shifts in American culture and society? Coronavirus versus the Great Depression for the economy. In this essay, you can draw parallels between the Great Depression of the 1930s and the coronavirus pandemic of 2020. You can focus on their effects on the American and global economies. Which was more devastating? How did they influence trade, the labor force, and businesses? What challenges hindered the economic recovery in both cases? Answer these questions in your paper. Find more research topics on studycorgi.com.